I'm excited to introduce our Star Spangled Story, which is the first curriculum for grades 1 through 4 from Knotgrass History. It continues the pattern of all of our histories in that it has 30 units. This time, though, each of those units has 3 lessons. We have part 1 with 45 lessons for the first semester and part 2 with 45 lessons for the second semester. This time, for our primary source book, our book is called Rhythms and Rhymes, and it is a collection of children's poems, folk songs, and folk dances from various times in American history. In the back of the book is a CD with a recording of each of the poems, songs, and folk dances done by homeschooling children, homeschooling graduates, and homeschooling parents. So the CD alone is a lot of fun. And when you get to a folk dance, you can go to knotgrass.com/dance and find a demonstration of the folk dance, again performed by homeschooling families. In our Star Spangled Story, we have a timeline, and the timeline is a full color timeline, which has illustrations from the lessons in our Star Spangled Story, plus it includes the beginning of each president's term in office and also shows when each of the 50 states came into the Union. Our Star Spangled Story has a student workbook that comes in the package. It has 3 different kinds of activities. One day each week, the students either draw a picture that is assigned or they write a paragraph. And that's one way that the curriculum works for children in grades 1 through 4. You just choose which one you want your student to do, and it doesn't have to be the same thing every week. It also has a picture to color one day, and then in the last lesson of each unit, it has a review of that unit. I'd like to share with you Unit 6 in our Star Spangled Story. The first lesson is George Washington at Mount Vernon. So the students learn about the first president and the father of our country, but they also learn about his life at Mount Vernon. Learn about his childhood and his marriage, and his thinking about why he wanted this precious home to be built the way it was. At the end of every lesson in our Star Spangled Story, we have a blue column, and in that are ideas for other things you might like to do. In this first lesson of this unit, the lesson activities suggestions at the end include finding the places we talked about today on a special map at the back of the book that has all of the places that we mention in the curriculum located there on that map. The second activity suggestion we have at the end of this lesson is dancing the minuet. The minuet was a favorite dance of George Washington, and so you can go to Rhythms and Rhymes and listen to the music of the minuet, and you can go to knotgrass.com/dance and watch the minuet performed by a homeschooling mama and her daughter, and then you can do the minuet too, and that's lots of fun. The student then can turn to the Lesson 16 activity in the student workbook. And at this time, the students are reading Tolliver's Secret. As in all Knotgrass History products, we have a suggested list of literature that go very well with the lessons. So at this point in the curriculum, the students have already read Benjamin West and his cat Grimalkin, and now they're ready for Tolliver's Secrets. And they have at least a couple of weeks to read each of this book, sometimes as many as 3 or 4 weeks. And again, for students who are ready, they can read these books on their own, or for students who are not ready to read them on their own, they can be family read-alouds. Very fun family read-alouds. We also have review questions at the end of each lesson. So today, the review questions are, why is George Washington known as the father of his country? Why did George Washington spend so much time away from Mount Vernon? And what does the Peace Dove weather vane on the top of Mount Vernon symbolize? Today, at the end of this lesson, you have an idea for a project to do. And this one is a delicious project. I had it with my husband, and I had it with our grandchildren not too long ago. This project is George Washington's breakfast. He loved to have cornmeal pancakes for breakfast, swimming in butter and honey. And they are delicious. We only have a project like that once a week, and as with everything in Snodgrass history, it's optional. You know what time you have to do your homeschooling, but we just want you to have plenty of options. So once a week, we have a hands-on activity like that. It's at the end of one of the lessons in the unit. The next lesson in this unit is A Home for the President, and this tells the story of John Adams' first night in the White House. I love the letter that he sent to his wife Abigail the next day. In that he said, "Before I end my letter, I pray heaven to bestow the best of blessings on this house and all that shall hereafter inhabit it. May none but honest and wise men ever rule under this roof." That prayer of John Adams is attached to one of the fireplaces in the White House to this day. So in this lesson, you learn about the city of Washington, why it was chosen, how it was chosen, and how it was built and who designed it, and also about the building of the White House. Again, at the end of this lesson, you have the blue column with suggestions of things that you can do after you read this lesson. I'd like to point out that on the days that the students are not assigned the project, we have fun ideas to play and pretend based on the lesson. So after this lesson on A New Home for the President, we have these ideas. Pretend that you are overseeing the construction of an important government building. You will have to plan what to do when, hire and manage workers, and get supplies. Or another idea we give you is to use building blocks to build the White House. And of course, we have a photograph in the book of the White House so they can follow that. Again, they look at the USA map to find places we talked about in this lesson. There is a song to listen to from Rhythms and Rhymes. And again, you have your student workbook, your review questions, and you continue reading Tolliver's Secret. The last lesson of this unit is Blazing Trails with Daniel Boone, and so you learn about the life of Daniel Boone and his explorations beyond the Appalachian Mountains. You have the same sort of ideas in the blue column at the end of the lesson. This day, you will do the review in the student workbook, which will give you an opportunity to remember what you have studied this week. We also tell you at the end of this unit what pages to look at in the timeline so that you can be reviewing what you've been learning all year. And so we give those suggestions on the last lesson of the unit, pages to look at in the timeline. Our Star Spangled Story is a fun curriculum for students in grades 1 through 4. We have poured our love of history and all of our creative juices into this curriculum to give you a wonderful American history for the youngest students.